Howdy, this is Nick with Hylio, back again with another manuals review video. This time we are getting started with the software video series. This first video is just going to be a warm-up, quick start guide as far as getting the software installed and just a quick review of how to use it. All the videos for the software as far as getting into every detail of every feature is probably going to take a little while. So this first one is, I imagine, what most people are going to look at and use. It's just going to be kind of getting you up and running, getting you installed, and getting you using the software. So first things first, you're going to have this installer. You want to just double click that to get that going. This installer you will get emailed to you when we receive the deposit, or it will come on the flash drive when you receive the drone. So you're going to want to get that installer and save it onto your computer. Once it's on your computer, like we saw here, you're going to get that installed. I'm going to go ahead and log out because I was already logged in there. Once you get it installed, it's just going to pop up like this. Mine didn't install the software drivers, so when it's your first time installation, it's going to have some drivers as well that it's going to prompt through an install, and you just got to click accept and next as it installs the drivers for the computer to use the radio and to be able to plug into the drone, stuff like that. So once you get all that through and installed, you're going to be prompted with this screen here. Assuming you don't have an account yet. So first thing you're going to have to do is go here and click sign up and go through and fill out your name, email, confirm your email, and come up with a password. Now, once you've filled that all in, you're going to have to fill in your license key. So this license key is going to be with that email where you got this installer here. It's also going to be on that flash drive. So wherever you found this installer, your license key is most likely right next to it. So you want to go and find that. Whenever you go to type in this license key, copy it and then press Control V to paste it in here. You can't right click and do paste, but Control V is a shortcut to do paste. So you don't have to type it in and mess it up a bunch of times. Once you have that set up, you hit sign up. It's going to send an email to your email address that you put in to confirm. So you're going to want to check your spam folder if you don't see it, but you open up that email, give it a minute or so, and you should receive an email from us that says, hey, click here to verify your email. So you click that link and it's going to verify that email address. And once you've done that, you come back here and you hit that back to log in, and you can go here and go ahead and log in. So let's just pretend, I just made my account. Now let's go ahead and log in. Okay, you're gonna need internet to log in. So you don't need internet for very much in this software. You need internet logging in, obviously, to be able to communicate. You need internet for the cloud storage stuff, of course. It's got to save somewhere, and you need internet for this background map. So you can see, obviously there's tons of data. We don't own Google Maps, so we can't just have this all saved locally. It's thousands and thousands of gigabytes, so you need internet for this background map. Now, what you can do is if I go and I zoom in to whatever level that I want and go and load this, see how it's loading up this map information? It will save this for 30 days in the software. It caches the information. So if you need map data in a certain area, just zoom in and look at it, and it's going to load it up, and then it will save it in there for 30 days, like I said. All right, so we've got our software installed. We're opened up. Now, like I said before, we're just going to do a quick review here of the software as far as getting a mission made and just kind of general flow of it. Following videos will kind of go through more intricate details of every little section. So right off the bat here, the software has 5 different tabs. We got areas, applications, operations, reports, and maintenance. So first one, areas. This is where we are managing the shape files for the software. So we can pretend we're drawing shapes for all these fields. This is just where all those boundaries are stored and manipulated. Now, this is also where the software is going to automatically generate path lines, and you can kind of dictate how those lines are going to be. Applications is where you take those areas and you add some of the spray settings onto it. So you can imagine I've got this field right here. I want to spray it with fungicide, and then I want to go and spray it with something else, and I have slightly different settings, stuff like that. Well, I want to have a record of both of those. I don't want just the area. I want to know what my applications on that area are, and that's what this tab is for. So this is where you can keep track of chemicals being used, application rates, spray speed, spray altitude, stuff like that. And next here we have operations. So this is where you actually fly the drone. So in applications, that's where you are assigning, an application to a drone. Operations, you are flying it. So easy enough. Lastly, reports. The software is going to keep a report of pretty well everything done in the software, and maintenance for doing general maintenance tasks. So like I said, we're going to find a field here and go ahead and spray it. We'll try to pick one moderately complicated so we can show some of these features that we need to use in like a normal environment. So here, this would be a bit of a pain of a field, so let's go ahead and give it a shot. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to connect to a simulator. So connecting to anything in this drone is going down in this top right corner over there. That way. So first you click this little drop down and you can see the various connection options. So first one up top is this cloud simulator. Then we've got drone port, which is plugging in with the USB cable to the drone. We got local simulator, which is really just for our software developers. Telemetry radio, which is that radio that plugs into the computer that talks to the drone when it's far away, that RFD radio. And lastly, tracker. So anytime you want to connect with any of these, first you got to click the one you want to do, and then you hit the play button. So I hit this play button. It's going to bring up this menu here. Now I can enter an address, enter coordinates, or just click on the map where I want to put a simulator, and I can pick the number of drones I'd like to simulate. We're just going to do one for now. We're going to keep it easy. If you have a current session, like where I had a simulator going 10 minutes ago, I can just, click enter coordinates. If I do that one, it's going to put it right back. See, the coordinates are the same. So if we want to continue that session, I can just click that, but I want to do this field over here. So I'm going to hit select on map, hit connect, and now we can click on the map where we want to do it. So let's pretend we're spraying this field. We only have access kind of on the road here. So we're going to drop the drone right there, and we click save. Now at this point, the simulator is going to automatically generate for us to use. Again, you need internet for this because this is a cloud-based, it's a full simulation. We basically spool up a digital flight controller for the software to communicate with. So as far as the software is concerned, this is pretty much a real drone. Now that makes it fantastic for training purposes. It also can be useful when, let's say I was flying a field and my report isn't quite right because I want it to get marked done and only like 99% of it's done. I can just go send a simulated drone out to finish it, just to clean things up a bit. You need to be careful though with your simulated drones, because if I go and fly a bunch of missions here, I'm going to have a bunch of reports that, didn't actually happen. They're simulated. So you're going to want to keep track and generally run the simulator in one specific customer, so you don't have. See how I click right here, I can select different customers. These are essentially different folders for the entire software. See how in every tab, when I'm within a customer, I've got different areas, applications, reports. But if I go to, let's say, a new customer where I don't have anything, you got nothing here. So it's good to have a customer that is just used for, let's just say I make one right now, simulator. So this is good to have just to keep things organized. So we have a simulator customer now that we're going to use for all this. All right, so we got our simulated drone up. let's go ahead and get started with spraying this field. So the first thing, we want to look over to the right here. We've got these area groups. So these are essentially folders. Within this customer, I could have different, let's say, properties or something like that, where I could have, like 10 areas over here, another 10 over here. I mean, you can use it however you want, but these are basically just folders to have areas within. That's what these area groups are. So we're going to sit here and say we want to add a new area within this first area group. Say OK. We can draw it or we can import it. So we probably won't get into that now, but there are a lot of different file types that you can import to use in this software. So that's one way to get to doing that. Click that import there. So we're going to go ahead and draw this one. Just going to do a pretty rough outline of this area. Depending on what the area is, how much outgrowth I might think I have for these trees, you're going to want to keep off of that a certain amount. To be honest, Google Maps is better and worse in some areas. So depending on where you're at, these maps may be more or less updated and can be trusted more or less to stay a certain distance away from tree lines and things like that. Not going to get into that too much. We had a pretty thorough discussion of that in some of the operations manual videos, so don't really need to talk about that too much. And we can tell there's a power pole there, so we want to be careful along that line. And there you go. So we basically went and we clicked around the boundary of this area and it generated this path. Essentially, all of these vertical lines here are where the drone is actually spraying, and these crossing ones, the drone is not spraying. So those crossing lines are basically where the drone is trying to figure out the best path to go. It needs to spray this chunk, and it needs to go over here and spray this little bit. So as far as when you first draw an area, in particular, if it's a nice easy square, like you don't have to work with it that much. But something like this, where the area is kind of funky, it's good to move this start point around. You can see how if I move this around, it makes a pretty big difference to those little crossing lines. So it's important to keep in mind, how where you're starting and how much ferrying you're doing, because it's going to make quite a bit of difference as far as the overall efficiency of what you're doing. So that's a good thing you can do. Move that start point. Moving on here along to the right, we have a few different settings we can look at. Looks like we're in metric, so that's an easy little thing there. We want to go over to this and we hit imperial, save that. Great. So now we're in imperial units. Looks like we had a 3-foot bandwidth. Okay, so now that we're in imperial, this is going to make more sense. First one, buffer. We already went through all these settings and kind of what they mean in the operations manual, but this is how you pick it. So buffer is that distance off the side, so we're going to set that to 20 feet to be nice and safe off of this tree line. Next one here is swath. So this is going to depend on what drone you're spraying. We have a Ag 72, so we can hit that one around 35 feet for what we're doing here. So that's a good pattern for that drone. Next one, angle. So this is the angle of line. This is another good one as far as fixing these little crossing lines. So you see if I adjust this angle a little bit, how it gets more and less ugly with all these ferry crosses. So we try to massage it a little bit to get the least amount of crossing around. Honestly, I thought it was really good at 0. Looks to be just a couple of those passes there. And then last one, offset, is pretty similar. This just shifts the lines left and right. So, you don't need to use it, but it can be helpful. But okay, so we're happy with this. Essentially, all of the setting of these lines, like managing these lines, happens in this Areas tab. Once you get out of the Areas tab, you cannot change this. You get into Applications, this path here of it starting at that green point and just going from there, it's locked in once you get out of the Areas tab. you don't necessarily have to do it in that order. Like I could just do this first little bit and then pick up this little bit later, do this other bit next week, whatever. But the whole starting at the green, following this path, and ending at the red, that's locked in once we get to the next tab. So we're in areas, we're happy with our area, we want to move on. We need to hit this little play button right here. You're going to see this play button all over the place. That's that go button. You know, when you need to know what to do next, that play button is a good option. So we want to move on. We're happy with this area. We hit the play button next to this area. It's going to create an application out of this area. So this stuff here, you can fill in as much as you want as far as adding your products and stuff like this. This is not going to, this right here, like this product stuff, does not make a difference to what the drone actually sprays. This is just for record keeping purposes. So you can add products and use them, and it will add to the reports what you put in here. So super important. We put pretty much everything that you need for record keeping, like legal application with a drone. I think just about everything is included in here. So, you know, you should fill it in. You don't have to. I mean, you don't. All you have to do really is give it a name, but it would be super beneficial. If you want to be legal, it really doesn't take that much effort to just add this stuff in. So, crop, target pest, chemicals. Let's just say we're doing corn, and we're looking at, you know, some black tar, fungus. We pick some fungicides. Okay. Now we're picking our settings. So we're doing that Ag 72. We can do about 16-foot spray altitude. Pretty good. Spray speed, 20 miles an hour. And dosage, we want to do, say, 2.5 gallons an acre. Reasonable. If we want to have these settings be saved as the default, so I don't have to set them every time, I just check this remember settings box, and the next time I make a new application, it will automatically fill this in, which will be nice. So I go ahead and hit create. Okay, so successfully created application, available in the applications tab. So we jump over here to applications, and there's our application right up there on the top. Okay, we have this nice folder for completed applications. There's nothing in it since we have a new customer. But all right, so we have our application. Now we want to spray this area. One thing that we did not do yet, and we really need to, is look at this big ugly tree line here. I'm going to imagine if this drone were to return home from the other side of this tree line, it's going to try to come across this tree line right now. So we need to mark this off as an obstacle so the drone knows to not go over in this area. So let's go ahead and do that now. So adding an obstacle is done in this, and this could be done in the areas tab too. That's fine as well. You know, either way is fine. As long as you do it before you put the mission onto the drone, that obstacle will get sent over to the drone. So areas tab, applications tab, whatever, doesn't matter. So we're going to go along the left side here. We can just look really quick at these little tools on the left. We have our looking up an address. We have our map provider. We can choose different maps. Google is generally the best in America. Zooming in, zooming out. We've got obstacle and flags if you want to hide and show them, and then adding flags and obstacle. And then we also have this distance measurement tool if you want to measure distances, and reporting bugs if you see an issue that you'd like to report to us. So we're going to add an obstacle. So we're going to add a polygon obstacle, which essentially is, you know, really similar to our I don't want to start there. Really similar to our drawing boundaries, where you just, you know, click along the map. So what I'm going to do here is draw my obstacle around, around this tree line here, just to tell the drone that I do not want it to go here. Now, there's kind of a few different strategies in regards to how to best draw these, but you want to just imagine that this drone, it doesn't necessarily have a mind of its own. It's just going to go wherever is the quickest route to get home or do whatever it needs to do. And it's, unless you tell it there's an obstacle here, unless you tell it to stay out of one field or stay in one field, it's not going to know to do that. So I'm going to really go out of my way here to pen this drone into a box. So you see how I'm going to draw an obstacle all the way around this whole field here, because I really only want the drone leaving and entering and exiting this field through that little spot. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw an obstacle around the entire outside of this field. Now, one of these days, pretty soon here, we're going to have a way to more easily just say I only want the drone entering and leaving through one little spot, but instead we kind of do the opposite. But anyway, so I drew an obstacle around the whole outside. So you can see this now. I don't care how stupid that drone is going to be. If it's thinking, oh, I want to come this way, that way home, it's not going to come out this way to come back. It's not going to come around the back of this tree line. It's only going to enter and exit through this area. This whole red spot is a no-fly zone. If I were to do something like only draw the obstacle on this little tail part here, the drone might come from this side, like come to return home from here and think, oh shoot, well it's faster to just go this way than it is to go this way, and come out into the neighbor's field and just across the trees over here. So you really got to pen it in to make sure it goes where you want it to. But all right, so we have our obstacles drawn, our area, we're happy with it. The drone is penned in, it's going to be nice and safe. Now we already picked these application settings, so we're happy with them. We want to change them. Oh, actually I want to spray at 15 feet, says 16. We can do that. 15 and a half, sure. Maybe we want to spray a little less dosage. 2.2, good to go. Now we hit this little play button again. Like I said, this is the moving on button. Now if I hit this, any drones that I'm connected to have a little checkbox. If I just want to get this going, I hit assign and upload. If I want to maybe adjust what I'm doing, I could just hit assign. And now if I just hit assign, I can tell the drone to just do any portion of this that I want. So see how I can drag the start and stop point? It's not moving those lines like it was before. It's the same path, but I'm just choosing what portion of that path I want to do. Now, honestly, for most people, you're not doing this. If you just want to spray an area, you just hit this assign and upload, and it's going to go ahead and upload the whole thing to the drone. And once again, I want you guys to know I'm doing this on a simulator on some random field. So you could very well do this on all your own fields before you ever spray them. So this is a very good training tool, very good practice. You see in the bottom right corner here, it's uploading this application. Okay, it had a little progress bar, went through a few times. Once it was done, it showed done here. And yeah, once that's done, we are done in this applications tab. So we hit areas, we drew the shape, we hit applications, we determined what portion we wanted to do, and we managed our obstacles. We go to operations, and bam, look at that, the area is in here. Now, an important thing to know is this area in the operations tab is what is on the drone. So this is on the pre-flight checklist, and again I go over it in the operations manual, but this is a very important sanity check before you take off a drone. You want to check that what you think that you uploaded is showing up in the operations tab. Operations tab is special, that it reads from the drone. It doesn't write to the drone for missions in this tab. So whatever is showing up here, whether maybe you think that I put a different application on here, maybe you just missed the upload button, you just clicked off to the side. You get here, if that area, if that shape that you're expecting is not in here, it is not on the drone. And maybe it was just a communication bug or something, whatever it is, but you need to know that, at the end of the day, if you click take off, it's going to do what is showing up in operations. So, like I said, super good sanity check to just have that. Now, we're going to go and hit maintenance really quick to check our advanced settings. So just to make sure we have what we want, the main one I'm looking for is obstacle auto route. So this is that feature that enables the drone to automatically path around this obstacle. So again, it's explained much more so in the operations video, operations manual, but you always want to check, okay, I want to make sure that's turned on. So you can see it there. It's right at the bottom, kind of behind me there. So we're back in operations. We want to check a few more of our settings before we take off. because we really just checked the spray settings. We didn't really look at our RTL, altitude, ferry, altitude, speed, stuff like that. All of that is located here in this settings area. So you hit that settings button, top right. So that opens up. We've got auto and manual settings. So auto is the settings used during a auto mission. Manual is the settings using when you're flying with the controller. So we're doing an auto mission, so we hit auto mode settings. First one, we got ferry altitude, ferry speed. So this is going out to the field. So we want to set this, something pretty good. Sure, 20 feet is fine. 22 miles an hour, good to go. Spray settings. So this stuff up top is the stuff that we already set in applications. This is just in case you want to change it between flights without having to go to that other tab. So that flight, it looked kind of low or it was kind of fast. Ooh, I wasn't spraying what I quite wanted. You can just go ahead and bump that up, between flights without having to go through all that rigmarole again. Down here, we've got some of the more minute sprayer settings, like how the minimum flow rates, descent speeds, minimum speeds, stuff like that. Next here we have RTL, so we're talking the RTL altitude, RTL speed. We want that stuff. Do we want some of these RTL conditions? Okay, we want an RTL after, say, 17.5 gallons. We have an 18-gallon tank, so that's probably a good spot to RTL. And then lastly, OA, we want to turn that on or off and set our distance, our buffer margin, again explained in the other one. So we go through here, change everything we want to. When we're done, we hit that upload button and it sends those changes to the drone. So again, some of these you can change in flight, some of them you can't. Obviously, like ferry stuff, it's already doing it, so you can't change that. I don't think you can change the spray stuff. RTL, you can change pretty much all this while it's flying unless it's already in RTL. So that's all the rest of the settings. A lot of those settings will show up here just so you can have a quick little reference just in case you need to actually open up or change any of that. You've got the current battery voltage, you got the current altitude, spray speed, spray flow rate, your total gallons and acres on this flight, your total spraying time up here, your GPS status, your connection strength over the radio to the drone, and lastly you got this little spray button here. This does not control the sprayer during auto, it doesn't just, I guess it will turn it on if you turn it on while you're spraying, but it doesn't affect the mission, anything like that. This sprayer control is for just controlling the sprayer when the drone's sitting on the ground. If I just want to bleed the lines or something like that, I can, hit the play button to bleed it. Or if I press this prime button, the drone will just spray for a few seconds until it detects a flow rate, and that'll turn off. So you can do that too if you want. But all right, so we have our mission, we have our settings, our advanced settings are good to go. Now we want to fly this thing. So we hit arm. All these 4 buttons here are click and hold. We hit arm, the motors will spool up, and then we hit and hold take off, and the drone is going to start its mission. So it's going to start flying over to that start point. Notice how it kind of took a little bit of an angle there, kind of went around that obstacle. Now it's going to go over there and it's going to start spraying. So while we're spraying here, we can see we've got, I guess we'll wait till it gets started. At the bottom, we've got this little weather thing here. So if I click that refresh button, it's going to pull the weather data from the nearest weather station that has posted public data to this drone. So it will save it there and it will put it on your report for when the report gets generated, and we'll go look at that in a second. If you want, maybe this weather data is not quite accurate. Maybe the wind speed said 11 miles an hour, and I've certainly never seen more than 9 miles an hour when I'm spraying, that's for sure. It's good to be able to adjust it because it's not always quite right, the nearest weather station. So you can adjust that and it'll save it to the reports. The drone is now flying. So this is pretty much exactly how it looks when you have a drone out in the real field. I mean, the only difference is we didn't go out and, lock out the arms and fold out the propellers and all that. But other than that, this is going to be what you see. It's going to mark off a green line as it finishes. It's going to have this dashed line here, going back to the land point. If you want to adjust the land point, you can. it's going to automatically put the land point where you took off from. So generally you want to just leave it because you know it's a safe spot, but it's up to you depending on what you're doing. You may have some reason to change that. This percentage here, or this green line, only updates every 1% of the field that gets sprayed. So if you have a really big field, this green line might not update as often. It'll look like it's going kind of a long way before it updates. It's not a big deal. The drone is going to go back to the right spot exactly, even if the green line doesn't upkeep. We just can only update that line so often for computer speed purposes. So on that note, computer speed, the computer you might want to use for this software, generally you don't want to use a computer more than like 3 years old. It's a lot going on in this software, so you want to have a pretty decent laptop to run it. If you go and grab your laptop that's 6-7 years old, you're probably going to have pretty poor performance out of the software. It might be pretty slow, pretty jerky, something like that. All right, so while we're flying here, we can look. Like I said, we got our battery voltage, we're watching our speed, we're watching our flow rate, all this stuff. See here, how many gallons per minute we're spraying. You can see the percentage of completion. So we're 6% done with this right now. We've done 4 acres. We've done 8 gallons-ish. What we've got remaining here, we got 61 acres remaining and 117 gallons remaining. So this is good to just keep an eye on as far as, being aware of how much you can expect. Oh, see, look at that. It's not spraying. You see that? Sprayer's off. That's on one of those little corner passes. Anyway, yeah, you want to keep an eye on this just for as far as your mix tanks, stuff like that. It's good to know. While this thing is spraying, we can jump over here to our reports tab, and we can see this report is actually being live generated as we go here. If you want, you can download the report. It'll make a PDF for it, so you can save that at any time. Obviously, you probably want to wait till it's done, so the report makes sense. But yeah, right now I believe we let you edit the weather, but we plan on letting you edit more stuff in the future. So yeah, that's the report. It's just going to keep on cranking that out, and like I said, it's going to only show the reports that are for the currently selected customer. Anyway, so this drone is going to keep on flying until it reaches probably that 17 gallons, 17 and a half that we had set. So we're going to leave this a bit longer because I want to show you guys something that it does when you get in the corner there. I want to show you that obstacle auto routing a bit more. So I guess we'll jump over to maintenance really quick while it's still flying. We've got at the front here just the system update button. So if you want to update the drone, generally you're going to want to update it when you first receive the drone. You get this software installed. It's going to be updated fully when you get it, but it's always good practice to just be able to do anyway. So you want to plug into it directly with that USB cable, hit that play button to connect, and then you hit this system update button and it will go through an update. Sometimes it can be picky about connecting over that USB cable, so sometimes it can be helpful to just plug it in. If you can't connect, just close and open the software and hit connect. In a lot of cases, it's technology, just closing and opening the software can go a long way, kind of like restarting your router. Similar with the drone too, like if it's just, doing some funky stuff and maybe you can't get a hold of someone, obviously we call people back, but it takes some time sometimes. It's always good to just turn the drone off and on, close and open the software.
Returning home.
Probably half the time that's going to fix your issue. All right, so it actually gave me a little audio warning, startled me a bit there, my own voice telling it that it's returning home. So look at that. It's going to tell us why it's returning home. RTL, volume limit reached. So that's important. You don't know why the thing is coming flying home. You can always just look right here as to what happened. So the thing is going to come down. It's automatically going to come back. It's landing. Once it gets on the ground, you can see here this changes to arm and take off again. It's on the ground. We're going to walk up there, fill up the tank. We change out the batteries. We plug in the new batteries. And then we come back here to the software. We're not hitting disconnect, connect, nothing like that. the drone will probably take like 45 seconds or so to boot up once you put the new batteries in. Generally, you'll do the batteries first, then, fill up the tank while the drone's booting up. Okay, we're ready to go. Now all I do is I just hit arm and then I hit takeoff. I don't have to mess with any of that other stuff, nothing with the settings, the mission, none of that. Which is, in general with the software, you want to put in the effort up front to get your shape how you want it, get these settings how you want it, go through the manual and try to understand what they all mean and what you might want, but get everything set how you want it, and then from then on you're just hitting arm and take off over and over and over. It gets pretty easy, pretty mindless, filling up the tank, hit and take off. Arm and take off. All right, so going back here, just a few more things. Obviously there's our other settings there. We've got our odometer, so this doesn't work for the simulator, but on your drone it'll tell you how many flight hours you've got, how many acres you sprayed, how much total volume, serial number on your drone, your various calibrations here, and your avoidance radar. You've got like a little submarine radar situation there, so you can walk around the drone and see what your radars are seeing. And then you've got some status here of the drone. What else? We have our calculators here. So we have a maximum speed calculator, which we talk about quite a bit at length in the other manual. And then we've got the manuals. So we keep updated manuals, per drone. We're looking at the 72 right now. Updated manuals for all the drones are in here, so you don't have to worry about making sure you have the latest version. We send paper copies, but you don't need to keep them. You just throw them away. Generally, we update the manuals about once a quarter just to keep everything up to date. We put versions on all the manuals, so we're on 4.2 right now. It's always good to know just to have these in here. All right, so our drone is still spraying. Another cool feature here, and we're honestly kind of getting wrapped up with all the stuff this software can do. Another cool feature that we've got, I'll just show you guys the return home right here again. So I hit that return. Now this drone is going to path around this obstacle here in order to get back to the land point. Super important, critical feature here. So if I had that switch turned on and I have this marked off properly, you'll see that this drone is going to go around that tree line and then come back in. If you don't have this obstacle marked off and you don't have that switch turned on for the auto route, then it's not going to do that. And it will try to fly into that tree line. Now, it has radars, obviously. It has like the avoidance radars, but those are not to be used as a plan for what you're doing here. You want to mark this stuff off so the drone goes around things in the first place. The obstacle avoidance radars, they're like an airbag. They keep you from when you already made a mistake. You should never be using those, and if you are, then you have made a mistake in the first place. Again, pay attention to your obstacles. You don't want to be using the radars. There are two separate systems, totally independent. This system here knows, like the drawn obstacles, it knows where they are, and you can see it's going around them automatically. The radars on the drone itself just stop the drone. They just keep it from flying into things. So if if this weren't turned on and the radar sees the trees, which it probably would, it's just going to sit there and stop. It's not going to start navigating around it. Super important. All right, we sent the drone back out. It's flying around. One last super important thing, we've got our RTL. I already clicked that earlier. We've got land. If you click that, drone's going to land in place. We've got this really good pause button here. So if I hit pause, this drone is going to make a pretty hard stop, and now it's just going to sit here. This is really cool because it allows you to have full manual control of the drone without necessarily grabbing that controller. So when I hit that pause button, this little flag appears here. Now I can drag this flag, and now that drone is going to fly wherever I drag that flag. So if I don't trust the obstacle auto route for whatever reason, you can use this and just have it, fly around that way. Or for whatever. There's all sorts of various good reasons you might want to use this. But yeah, essentially gives you full control of the drone without having to control the drone. Super nice. I mean, especially if you're not a huge like tech person, you're maybe not super comfortable on the controller. I don't blame you. It's a massive, massive drone. A lot of people really prefer to just use the software and never touch that controller. And to be honest, I find that to be a safer way to go anyway, because I can go right here and tell this drone to fly on the other side of that obstacle, and you know what? It's not going to fly through the obstacle. Now, if I get my controller out, on the other hand, I can try my hardest to go and fly into that obstacle. And the radars are probably going to stop me, but again, like we've got this extra little bit of safety here, actually using the software, as for its intended purpose. Now, once the drone has gotten to somewhere, let's say, for whatever reason I did that in the first place, I wanted to actually pick back up and start spraying again. I hit this resume button and it's going to fly itself back to the start point and start spraying. So, yeah, that pause and move feature, super critical. Drawing those obstacles, super critical. And making sure those switches are where they need to be in that maintenance tab. So this was a good example, I would say, of a field to spray. I really recommend using this simulator just to get used to the software. In general, that operations manual kind of goes through what each of these settings do. The software guide is really kind of showing you where they are, so you want to be looking at that to understand what these settings should be set to and why. But I hope this will get you off to a good start as far as the general flow of the software. A lot of stuff I left out of some of the finer details, but this should be enough to get you going and at least get practicing on that simulator. A lot of people, most people really learn better by doing. So, my recommendation here, get on that simulator, get this installed and get practicing, and do it preferably much before receiving the drone. So you can have a lot of acres under your belt before that drone ever shows up. And if you can even set up all your fields before the drone ever shows up. And honestly, that's highly recommended. Just then really all that's left is, getting some practice on setting the drone up physically, which is, it's a whole thing in itself. But most of the mistakes that cause crashes are mistakes made in the software. People setting up missions wrong, stuff like that. It's super rare that somebody doesn't fold out a propeller quite right or, something along those lines and has a crash because of it. It's usually they're making a mistake in the way they're setting up their missions, and that's where they have an accident. So getting that practice in, making your mistakes in a risk-free environment, super huge. But yes, thank you for watching. There will be more videos going through each of the tabs, probably one video for each tab, getting into the finer details of each of those. But hopefully this got you off to a good start. Don't hesitate to reach out to Hylio's support staff if you have any questions. All right, thank you for watching.